game, there were 26 Batman games. From 1986 to 2008, 26 Batman games. And it wouldn't be until 2009 with the 27th game that actually makes you feel like Batman.
I like Batman. He's one of my favorite comic book superheroes. I prefer the version from the DC animated universe though, specifically Batman the Animated Series, because he felt the most human. He wasn't overly paranoid or invincible like how some comic continuities made him to be. You may say that he's prepared, but there's a difference between being prepared and paranoid, which I suppose plays into the whole theme of the Batman series, that everyone who dons a costume is pretty much insane. The only difference is that while Batman is crazy, he does good by fighting other crazy people who are doing bad. While I like Batman, I never collected the comics. I've read up on them and watched Linkar's reviews of Batman comics. I just preferred the visual media like TV and movies because I'm not a big comic book person. The most I have is a few mangas and that's really it. Although I haven't watched the animated movies where Batman is in them for reasons unknown. Although I'll watch the Joel Schumacher Batman movies every time they're on since I think they're so bad they're good. But I prefer the Tim Burton or Christopher Nolan ones. I think that my appeal for Batman is not so much Batman himself, but his villains, as he has the most interesting villains in comics, in my opinion anyway. But my favorite Batman would have to be Terry McGinnis from Batman Beyond.
When I heard that Arkham Asylum was a really good game, my suspicions were raised. You're telling me that a game based off an already existing intellectual property is really good? Why don't I believe you?
I don't think me being suspicious wasn't unfounded. Very, very few games based on existing IPs like comics, cartoons, or movies are so rare. It's like a movie based off of a video game being good, of which there's only one, and we all know that's the Super Mario Bros. Movie. I think that's something we can all agree on. I think Batman Arkham Asylum was a groundbreaking game, and it changed how we see 3D beat-em-ups as a whole. Eidos acquired the rights to make a Batman game 2 years before Square-Enix bought them out. Eidos went to hardly known Rocksteady Games, a British developer whose only title was Urban Chaos Riot Response. After Eidos saw the prototype, they gave the go-ahead for Rocksteady to start development. They also got veteran Batman writer Paul Dini to write the story. The atmosphere took inspiration from BioShock, and the setting of Arkham Asylum was chosen because it confined the player to a smaller area, forcing them to fight the many enemies that you'll find. Kevin Conroy, Mark Hamill, and Arlene Sorkin reprised their roles as Batman, Joker, and Harley Quinn. This makes the second to last time Arlene Sorkin would play Harley Quinn, as DC Universe Online was the last time. All further appearances of the character would be voiced by Tara Strong, of which I'll talk about when I review Arkham City. They really went all out with presentation, making sure that it was an authentic Batman experience. Everything looks like it would be seen in a Batman comic. The graphics are pretty good for their time, the textures and lighting work really well. The animation when you're moving about is good, but just okay when it comes to talking to characters. It's very stiff with no facial expressions, and very little head movement, and the cutscene animation is motion captured, something that always bothers me. I don't mind motion capture from when a character is moving when you play as them, but when it comes to cutscene animation, it looks so stiff and unnatural, and I wish they would tweak it by touching up on the individual parts. It's really only noticeable with the more animated characters like the Joker and Harley Quinn, but there isn't that many scenes with them involved. The music is very ominous, if it plays at all, as the game relies more on atmosphere, keeping things quiet as to let you know that you're in a mental asylum. You'll hear little chimes when the announcement system comes on, only hear a pre-recorded message or the Joker taunting you or saying something to his minions. The voice acting is really good, but the actors for the Batman characters have always been a perfect match for them. Despite Kevin Conroy being nearly 20 years older than he was when voicing Batman in the cartoon, he still sounds the same. Mark Hamill as the Joker is still perfect, but you can tell that he's aged. And the same goes for Arlene Sorkin. Still great voice actors, but you can tell that there's a change in their voice. The gameplay is a mixture of sorts. Platforming, stealth, puzzle, beat 'em up, all tossed into a Metroidvania-like game. There is quite a bit of backtracking, going between the island's three main areas. The major portion of the action is through the beat 'em up. You'll essentially be mashing the X or square button to string combos together and occasionally hit the Y or triangle button to counter an incoming attack. The attacks have a very flowing feel to it. You go from enemy to enemy nearly seamlessly. The only time there's a pause in that flow is when the enemy is too far away. Now I've noticed that countering seems to have a very small chance of not responding to the button press, as I've pressed it and nothing would happen on the very rare occasion. Other reasons why it might not work is due to being busy with another enemy, like if you're initiating a takedown move. You can press B or circle circle to swish your cape, which will make the enemy dizzy and leave them open for attack. You can't jump, as the A or X button will let you run. You'll automatically jump over gaps, and holding the run button will let you glide in midair. Double tapping it will let you do a dodge. The shoulder buttons will use a variety of gadgets, going from batarangs, explosive gels, zip lines, and many others that you'll select with a D-pad. And the gadgets can be used in a variety of creative ways, like setting up traps with explosive gel or using the grappling hook to reach higher places. The stealth is pretty good. You're able to sneak up on enemies and quietly take them down, but it takes too long. Reason being is because Batman doesn't kill. He just knocks people unconscious by putting them in sleeper holds, which can lead you to being spotted by other enemies. And when they all have guns, it makes things very dangerous. The more efficient takedowns are the inverted takedowns. This is when you're on a gargoyle and you hang the enemy upside down. It's the fastest takedown, but you can't use it all the time as there's not that many gargoyles to hang from. At one point, the game throws you in a room with gargoyles rigged to explode, so you can't use them, and there's 7 armed guys. This took me over an hour to complete because it's a waiting game, as the game slowly takes your stealth away as there's less and less things to hide with. And as you do more stealth takedowns, the more erratic the enemy AI gets. When they're calm, they move slow and have their guns at their sides. When nervous, some of them team up. Their guns are drawn and they're more alert, moving a little faster. And when they're terrified, they're looking all over the place, moving faster and even shooting at nothing, which is really good, but also makes things more difficult, of which I have no problem with. That's how it should be done. There's an experience system in place. The more guys you take out, the more Joker teeth you destroy, Riddler's riddles you accomplish, the more experience you get, which can be spent on upgrades like adding more armor to the Batsuit, more combat moves, and gadget upgrades. But the game is pretty easy with detective mode. It highlights things of interest like switches and walls that you can blow up. It lets you know how many enemies are in the area and if they're armed or unarmed, and lets you easily track their movements. This really breaks the game, as you can pretty much have this on the entire time, as it gives you X-ray vision.
You'd think that Batman would have this giant mass of tumors for a head at the halfway point. All that exposure to X-rays cannot be good for your brain.
Depending on which puzzles you're doing, it's either brainless or pretty hard. If you're only following the story, it's just a matter of finding an object and scanning that object. The game does all the work for you pretty much. However, if you're going for the Riddler's puzzles, you're gonna need to look at everything, and I mean everything, because some of them can be extremely tricky, requiring you to look at things from a certain angle or getting to a secret area for a Riddler trophy that's really hidden. Now, the story is written really well. As we all know from the advertisements and even the back of the box, the Joker takes over Arkham Asylum, but his reasons for doing so are rather stupid, even by Joker standards, and it's not even something the Joker would do. I don't think I'm spoiling anything here, but basically the Joker wants an army of Banes, giant steroid monsters, and wants to take over the city. I'm not a comic book expert or anything, but aren't the Joker's plans only supposed to make sense to him and him alone? And he does what he does because he thinks it's funny? Wasn't there a time when he went to Metropolis to wreak havoc, and when Superman asked him why the Joker was there, his only response was, "Oh, Superman, why not?" His motivation is just death and destruction. He wants to kill a few dozen innocents and screw the loot. Starting a fire at the Blackgate prison so his crew would be sent over to Arkham and then take it over sounds like a Joker plan if he did it for no reason except for the laughs. But to get to a doctor who is making a stronger version of the venom drug that Bane uses to make his own army, that doesn't seem like a Joker plan. Then he injects Batman with the drug and then himself, and that's where it lost me. The Joker won't do anything to cause lasting physical harm, let alone kill Batman. He wants Batman alive because without Batman, the Joker has no reason to exist. He's even stated this. In the cartoon, in the episode The Man Who Killed Batman, Joker says that without Batman around, crime has no punchline. In The Dark Knight, the Joker says he won't kill Batman because he's too much fun. In one of the comics, the Joker says he'll only stop committing crimes once Batman is dead.
Now you may be getting ready to say, well, that's the Joker, he's unpredictable. No. What the Joker is going to do is predictable. When he's going to do it is the unpredictable part. If you're standing next to the Joker, you know he's gonna kill you. You just don't know when.
Overall, the game is quite easy, but when you're heading towards Killer Croc's lair, which is towards the end of the game, is when it starts throwing in these strange difficulty spikes. In one room in the intensive care area, they throw in 7 armed guys and they rig the gargoyles to explode, meaning you need to sneak up on them and use silent takedowns. but it's made more difficult by the collars the people wear, which alerts the other enemies to the area. I cheated the whole time by continuing to go back into the air duct from where I came from to hide and wait, but this can get frustratingly boring doing this method, but it's also the safest. But after that, there's another section with 7 armed guys and gargoyles that are perfectly fine, allowing you to take them all down rather quickly. But then it locks you in a very small room with a Titan boss, and sends 3 very large waves of goons after you. Sadly, the game gets really repetitive pretty quickly. You're just fighting goons for most of the time. Even in the boss battles, you're fighting goons while avoiding the boss in name only, because the boss fights don't really feel like boss fights. You battering the boss to make it crash into a wall, hit it a few times, get tossed back, fight more goons, battering the boss, wash, rinse, and repeat. And all the goons are the same. They either have no weapons, a metal pipe, knives, stun batons, or firearms. The Bane boss is fighting goons and then throwing a batarang at Bane and then hitting him. The 2 Harley Quinn encounters are just fighting waves of goons. 2 out of the 3 Scarecrow gauntlets have you fighting goons, only that they're skeletons. And some of these fights just get nuts, like fighting the Titan and the 50-something goons in a small room. The game is around 10 hours, so I think it's better to play it in short bursts to fully enjoy it, as extended playtimes can get exhausting or boring. And I'll let you know that this is my 3rd time playing the game. A good way to avoid all the repetition is to take time to do the Riddler puzzles or search for the collectible items, and there's a lot. I was at the end of the game and was only considered 50% done with this playthrough, and I collected quite a lot of Riddler trophies and other collectibles. Before I end this, there's one thing I want to address, and that's my Deadpool review. In that review, I said that Deadpool had the same flowing combat as the Arkham games, as he would go from enemy to enemy, had a very similar counter system and even being mapped to the same button, and it also had a dodging system, but instead of punching and kicking, you're using swords and guns. I felt that Deadpool borrowed heavily from Batman Arkham Asylum, but yet still did their own thing with it by making the combat faster and more frantic, and it didn't take itself seriously, knowing that it's a game and breaking the fourth wall every chance that it got. I was accused of being biased towards Deadpool, when the reality is that I felt that Deadpool was judged unfairly and that people were biased in favor of Batman, because they criticized Deadpool for repetitive combat, but the 2 games feel the same to me. Deadpool was just faster paced and used weapons, giving it more of a hack and slash feel, as opposed to Batman, who punched and kicked, making it more of a beat 'em up. But both games had that flowing combat where you attack a bunch of goons. So calling one repetitive and not the other is unfair, and all games are pretty repetitive if you think about it. What you do in the beginning is going to be the same thing you're doing at the end. It's just how they designed the game to make sure that you don't feel that repetitiveness.
Batman Arkham Asylum is probably one of the greatest superhero games ever made. And if you like Batman, you're gonna like this game, and you should probably play it if you haven't already. And from what I've heard, this game and Arkham City are getting a re-release on the PS4 and Xbox One. I doubt that I'm gonna buy them because I bought this game 3 times already, and that's enough for me.